Meaningful hockey. Boy, it hits a little bit different. Leafs talk. JD Bunkis, Sam McKee. Leafs lose to the Boston Bruins on Hockey Night in Canada in the essentially the last minute of the game on a Matt Grzelcyk clapper, his first goal in like 33 games. Bit of a heartbreaker for the Leafs. But, buddy, I had to keep telling you shut up before we were getting online because both you and I were just excited to watch a hockey game where it was two good teams who cared. How it's been a while since we've had that, bud.
Yeah, this is a long way from Detroit on Thursday night, but this was a really awesome hockey game with two really good teams going back and forth. And Leafs fought their way back into it. And like you said, a bit of a heartbreaker. Thought they played really well in the third period. I thought they kind of got caved in a bit in the second, as the score probably showed. But I don't know what Keefe said in the dressing room between the second and third period, but he really motivated the guys, and they seemed like they really had a good response. But, man, that was an awesome hockey game.
Yeah, so I'll just start with this. Like, who do you think's happier from that game? Like, we agree that this seemed like a measuring stick game for both teams, right? They just both seemed to come out and care. They both played with intensity. It was funny because, like, I had people in my mentions saying, like, Toronto looks bad to start the game, and I was like, they were getting outshot, but you could tell, like, the intensity level was ramped up. But who do you think was, like, happier with, like, the result is obviously the Bruins, but the way that they played?
Probably. I mean, it's a good question. I think what you're getting at here is that the Leafs are getting on the plane tonight, and they're not as devastated as they would be if the game had gone a different way. I think the Bruins, because they got another regulation win against a team that was chasing them in the standings, and getting the full 2 points there, that pretty much if it wasn't dead and buried already, it's getting pretty close now to the Leafs having no chance
there. Yeah. Can I jump in there on this? That kind of crushed me at the end. That didn't really hit me because I kind of thought both teams were going to overtime and that the standings would be kind of flat. And my brain had already done the processing of like, man, if you're Toronto, even if you get the overtime point and they get just one on you, it's so hard.
I was doing the exact same thing.
And then all of a sudden it was like, you're down. And I'm thinking, boy, this sucks. This was kind of one of the stories we could have had this year of like, maybe, just maybe the Leafs are catching the Bruins. Because did you hear what Sheldon Keefe said pregame?
No, I didn't. What did he say?
It was perfect. It was just sometimes Keefe just nails it. And I know it's just coach speech. It's basically common sense. That's mostly sports. Good takes in sports are mostly just common sense. But essentially he just said that all they want to do is keep the pressure. He said the Bruins are playing at a historic pace, but they just want to keep the pressure on so that if they don't maintain that pace, they'll be right there nipping at their heels. And I went, that should be exactly it.
Perfectly said. Yeah.
But perfectly said, because you want Boston to be trying their asses off to make sure that the regular season matters. You want them to be chasing the President's Trophy, and hopefully they go the way of Tampa from a couple of years ago. What was that, 2019, where they just kind of burnt out and they were hurt, and they put all their eggs into the let's get the records for John Cooper basket, and they get into the round with Columbus. Kucherov has one bad game, and he has cry fest, and they completely break down and get swept by Columbus. That's kind of what you're hoping for. But I like. Back to the thing about just the Bruins being happy, or who's happier. Bruins get the 2 points, takes a little bit of the pressure off them. I think that they're the happier team with how tonight played. Like, I thought the Leafs had to kind of throw everything at Boston, and they played like a pretty damn good game with a lot of their guys. And still, I came away from it thinking Bruins had the better goaltending. They got the better defenseman. Like, they got the better blue line, no questions asked. They got a top line that can match up with Toronto's just like as good as anybody around the league. And then there was just like when things got physical, when there were puck battles, I tipped the cap to Leafs that they really matched the energy level. Like, they weren't embarrassed in a game against not arguably, the best team in the league right now. Historically great start to a season by the Bruins. But I just like throughout the game, I kept feeling like Toronto was playing Boston's game more than the other way around. And that they were just doing like a good job of keeping up with the big brother.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take to have out of that game. If I'm Kyle Dubas watching that, I'm probably thinking, I think that's a really good sort of, for everyone, like you said, measuring stick game. Yep. But I think for the front office too, and the coaching staff, the Leafs can play with the Bruins. They just showed it tonight that they can play with the Bruins. But if they want to play in a 7-game series with the Bruins, which they'd have to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning to get there, which is just a whole other conversation. They got to make some additions. Like, the bottom 6 for the Leafs is not nearly good enough. I know Engvall scored a goal tonight. I know, whatever. But
dude, I thought the game was about to turn on its ass before Engvall got that goal.
For sure.
Like that, when you were talking about them getting caved in, I thought like, boy, that was lucky. And then Boston responded immediately with a couple of others. But that was a huge stroke of luck that Engvall scored that goal.
That's a great shot. Came flying in.
Sure.
Tip your cap. 88-mile-an-hour wrister right under the blocker in the net.
Great shot.
Tip the cap.
I'm not saying it's not a great shot. I'm saying it was like a really fortuitous timing that they ended up getting one there and that he broke in and was able to get it off.
The ice was absolutely tilting at that point. Like it really was. So I think the bones are there for a team that can compete in a 7-game series with the Boston Bruins.
Yep.
Like there's no question that the Leafs can match them in some aspects, but I think the perfect, Connor Timmins playing on your top pair tonight without TJ Brody, this decor is not very good right now. And I guess you can say Sandin and Liljegren but like they got banged around. Like Liljegren went off the ice after getting smoked. They got knocked around a little bit. I think watching this game, I know it's just one game, but this is who you're measuring yourself against. You really do. It showed me that the priority maybe should still be a physical defenseman, a guy that can kind of log some minutes against bigger bodies, because the Leafs decor looked really, really shaky tonight.
Yeah, they definitely did. Obviously, I think that the Timmins play goes down as the worst play of the season so far.
Well, I'm not sure. So I have a couple things on that.
Okay.
So Timmins, obviously, my stock, I'm ruined. I was
gonna say you're a Timmins apologist, so I'm kind of like gearing myself up for how a blindside pass with Pasternak on the ice.
He was not good tonight. Where they finished -4, -3. They were bad tonight.
Morgan Riley, I think a -8 since coming back.
He has not been good. So I got to ask the question. Like I praised Keefe on your show the other day.
Yeah, I know.
But how the hell did he expect that to go? Did he expects that you're putting a guy who is this reclamation project who's played kind of good. He can't even get in your lineup when you're fully healthy, and you put him on the top pair in Boston with Riley, who's been shaky. You just put both these guys in a really not a situation to succeed. I even texted you. I was like, is he trying to send a message to Dubas that he needs a D guy? Because it's like he went back to it in the third period multiple times. Like to me, that was not a pretty decision from Sheldon Keefe. Seemed like he was trying to get a little bit too cute. So, but I don't want this to come off across as a Timmins apologist because he was very bad. But I don't understand what the thought process of putting Timmins with Riley was tonight.
Well, I would say it's this, okay? Like this is my kind of defense of this take, is that I'm trying to find Timmins' minutes. Yeah, like he had Timmins out there with Riley a lot, but Timmins did only play 14 minutes tonight.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
for how he was playing. Like
for sure, but just in like there's two things here. One is like they've already had this run with TJ Brody out where they've played Gio for like a long stretch of over 20 minutes a night. And you saw it again tonight where, dude, he wore 2 massive block shots and he got hit hard at one moment.
And he also iced the puck 14 times.
Yes. Yes, but this is the thing. He's the oldest player in the NHL and he's just taking a beating night in, night out. Like there's a cumulative effect that happens to the rest of the roster when you have the TJ Brody's out. So it's like, they needed a body. And if you look at it, like, dude, Liljegren played 20 minutes tonight. Sandin played 18 minutes tonight. Like, I get what you're saying, but they were basically just doing with the best they could with the deck, the shuffle deck. Like, what other pairing would have made you happy? Like, they played the kids a lot. And I thought that the kids actually, I would say one of my biggest positive takeaways from tonight, the 2 Swede kids were solid. Like, they just belonged in that game. I thought that they played with intensity. Sandin was Liljegren was really throwing the body around, trying to make plays. Like, do they look a little overwhelmed at times? Sure. They're young and they're not grown into their like full man body yet that is going to be required in a Boston Bruins series. Yeah. But like, I was really impressed with the way that they played and stepped up. It just, I don't think Sheldon Keefe had a lot of options with it. Like, if Timmins is playing and Riley's playing, which is brutal about the Riley thing because he's a $7 million defenseman, that you got to find a way to kind of like shelter him and hide him a little bit. But they just don't have options, man. The options are play the oldest guy in the league more minutes, play Justin Hall more minutes. Justin Hall again another night over 20 where he played, I thought, like pretty solid. And then you played the kids over 20. Like there's that. And then the other piece of it to me is this. You're using it as a measuring stick game. You want to have it be like as close to the real thing as possible. So this isn't the game where you're like tinkering with all the pairings and shuffling them all up in a blender. You're just saying, hey, when we're healthy, it's going to be Brody with Riley. So let's at least take a look at these other two pairings together because like this is what we've got. So let's evaluate how these guys play against Boston together. Like let's not break up Sandin Liljegren. I think it's defensible. Like it looks really bad on paper. I totally get your take. I'm just saying I do understand kind of Keefe's position on this one. It's like, what else am I supposed to do? And I get more tests. I get like a little bit of data on the other two pairings that like could actually be together in this series.
For sure.
Like Timmins isn't going to be in that series.
I get it. But it's just, to me, optically, like I said before, we don't have to go around in circles, but a guy that can't get into your lineup 2 games ago, going into the top pair in against the best team in the history of the NHL, maybe not the smartest coaching decision for my perspective.
Hey, so the other thing though is I think you're right. It just watching Boston have McAvoy back there and just how much he can kind of
God, he's got a punchable face. Holy.
Oh, he sure does. Boston has a bunch of guys with punchable faces, but
McAvoy leads the league for me. He's just got that look on his face. I'm telling you, as a guy,
the league for you,
like he really is high on my list. I don't even really hate him that much, but just the look on his face, oh my God. Like I would be going after him every shift. I couldn't be able to help myself. He just looks at you. You got that look on his face. Anyways, continue.
I think you're right that Toronto clearly needs to try to add on their blue line, but the bottom 6 that you mentioned, like Wayne Simmons mattered too much in that hockey game. And like he did matter. And I know that people will say like his actual gameplay wasn't great, but the way he was sticking up for teammates, the way that he was getting in scrums, the fact that he dropped the mitts, he just
fight.
Dude, it was a great fight. But that's what I'm saying.
Oh my God, I was so fired up.
He mattered in that game tonight. Like they need a little bit of that. And I couldn't help but think like, what if they take Wayne Simmons out of this game? And like 2 of the top guys that showed the most team toughness, I thought, Giordano and Simmons are, again, 2 of your oldest players, 2 veterans that you're leaning on for that. I don't know how Toronto really remakes that on the fly. I don't really think they can, but it absolutely should be a goal. And when I was looking again at differences between these 2 teams, that felt notable to me that one of the guys that probably isn't going to be in the lineup for this matchup mattered in this matchup.
Yeah, I think it should absolutely, if you're watching this game, and I know Dubas is Mr. Patient. He doesn't make snap decisions off stuff, but he's writing stuff down in his little, thought book.
His little thought book.
Guarantee has like
his little journal.
I guarantee he's got a little journal. Writes down his thoughts, his feelings. I guarantee he has that. But you need a guy like that in the playoffs, but a better version of that. A guy that, can skate, that can play, because it's pretty clear Simmons is not able to keep up with teams like this. But like you said, he absolutely set the tone tonight. And that building was so charged up right away. You could feel it. And there's just it was barely a hit. And Foligno comes right after him, immediately obliges, and 2 veteran studs just chuck him at center ice for, what was that, a minute and a half? Those guys were just throwing bombs.
It was also a minute fight. It was kind of funny. The refs let it go a little too long. Normally I'm let it go, guys. This is what I was like, get in there. Those guys are 40. Yeah.
And it just,
come on.
That obviously went to the Leafs' legs. They played so well after that. It still matters so much in hockey to have a guy that you just can look to do that. And God bless Simmons for doing it. That's no fun. Like he barely plays. He gets into the lineup. He's expected to have this presence, goes in there, drops him, his dad smiling. Like I love it from Simmons, but if you get into a playoffs, you can't, he's not going to be able to do it. So you need to, last year. No. And you need to identify somebody who's going to be able to come into your bottom 6 and kind of play somewhat of that role. You really do. Yeah. And it matters. It's still hockey. It's still playoff hockey. You need to find that.
100%. And I just liked that at least the Leafs had a little bit of something that they could respond to the Bruins' nastiness.
Yes.
You know what my favorite play of the game was? Boston. It was when Marchand misses that cross ice pass and he doesn't finish the goal and he just cross checks Sandin
for no reason.
Just bang, right in the chest, bang. Like you just see the way Boston finishes checks, and that's the beauty of watching Marchand, right? Is just like
but Marchand never fights. He's just he's just as soft as anybody else. He's never dropped the gloves ever. Like he's
I don't understand the drop the gloves thing. That's never what I'm referencing. Like I don't care about drop the gloves.
We always kill Bunting for acting like a dick and not dropping the gloves. And Marchand's the exact same way. He never drops the gloves. like if he actually dropped the gloves, maybe I would give him a little bit more respect for what he does out there. But like he runs around, he acts like and just goes off the ice and never fights anybody. Like he's just as big a rat. Hey, I love the guy. I respect his game.
No.
I'd kill for him on my team, but like he doesn't ever, stand up and fight people. That's not part of his game.
I think you're missing my point though here. My point here is just simply that Boston is a team that throughout the entire game, it was just a little bit tighter than the Leafs. And I thought that their physical play mattered in this game, where there's just a little bit of a nastiness up and down their lineup to their guys, where they just have like you and I talk about the top down and how sometimes there's just not the nastiness top down with the team. It's like, there's just I like that their guys will always finish a check and that he'll lay the lumber on somebody. I don't care about like team toughness in terms of fights. Fighting goes away in the playoffs. I don't think that matters as much. Like what I think matters is just hitting guys and always being like laying that extra stick and just being annoying and just, that's
what Michael Bunting does. And we kill him for it.
Well, I don't think Bunting's as physical. I think he stands in front of the net and he'll take a beating, but it's not like Bunting goes into the corner and like, players are looking over their shoulder when he's coming in.
And was to say it's the exact same thing with Marchand. Like he doesn't hit anybody. He just sticks people from behind and does dirty crap when he never stands up for himself.
I think he hits. But
barely.
Anyway, I think my most impressive thing with the Leafs tonight was that I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, just in passing. They bounced back all the time when like the game had real ebbs and flows to it, and they never really went away. They kept kind of battling back, and then
by far the better team in the third period. Like they really were. And I thought like they just, like I said, Keefe must have said something to him great in that second intermission because they came out awesome. And I would be remiss. I don't know if we can go to this now, but that goal Matthews scored was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
Not to like, he starts from his own zone where he hits an absolute home run out of the air. From the top of the circle, he hits it all the way down to the offensive zone. And then you saw the sort of ISO cam on him. He's like, am I going to follow this play? I'm going to follow this play. I'm going to be defensively responsible. And the second Marner picks up the puck, you just see him head down straight for the zone, picks it up. And the in tight like that on the Vezina front runner makes him look stupid. Just shelves it.
Just looked, I just love how
vintage,
easy he looked.
That was vintage Matthews. And after a couple games off and talking about his injury and stuff, I thought he was awesome tonight. Thought he was noticeable the whole night. Thought he had a ton of great offensive chances. Allmark stoned him. Like maybe it was a little bit of load management. Who knows what the hell's going on with him? But I thought it was a really good game from Matthews, including that, that absolutely vile goal he scored. It was really nice.
Yeah, I don't think the injury is very serious. Like, I think he's been nicked up a little bit throughout the season, I'm sure, because of whatever reason, man. But no, I think that this is a form of load management. Like, guess what? Basketball players, when they use load management, usually like, their knees are a little swollen. They're a little tired. They've got to think like, it's not like you never have an injury at all.
Little bone bruise going on or something.
Yeah. A little soreness. He's probably just taking care of it. No, this was a really great game. Like there was just a lot of things that happened. Like Murray, the first save of the game, the cross crease robbery of like Marchand. Like just, these are like were the electric plays in the game. I thought like the Simmons and Foligno fight we went over. Tavares making an incredible play on the first goal of the game where he breaks in on the power play and he finds Bunting. The Giordano block on the power play. These were just like things I put as like
highlight reel. Blocked it with his dick. Just
just
jumps straight in front of it. like this guy's a warrior, man. Lord.
I honestly, it's so funny you say that because I was thinking maybe he wasn't going to come back in the game because he got football to the groin.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
God.
I was like, he was Hans Moleman. I thought he was done for the game. The Allmark huge robbery right before. Yes. Like right before Murray lets in the one like he couldn't see. Oof. And then Matthews says like what is like, I don't know, maybe the Leafs goal of the year. I was trying to think of what's a prettier goal than that one so far this season for them. That's the one. That's like unless we were counting the penalty shots, because there's some sexy ones in there.
Oh yeah. The shootout?
Yeah, the shootout. But I'm a soccer guy now. I just always call them the penalties. Tonight,
it depends.
Yeah, Bruins had a little bit of a soccer moment tonight when Taylor Hall dove.
Oh, that was like embarrassing.
Yeah, that was quite the soccer moment for him. Looked for it, and then like that was a targeted dive. That was I see what I could do here, and then he took his opportunity. Anyway, it was just like two intense teams playing at a very high level. big saves, big goals, big fights, big hits. Like, yeah, that scrums after what'd you think of the stuff after the whistle that they had to break down on Hockey Night because we didn't even see it on the broadcast? You see
Yeah.
that?
No, I was watching the football game.
Simmons. Okay, yeah, I was switching over too. I stayed with it, but like basically after Bunting got into a scrum, Simmons and a couple of the Bruins like got into it, and they were all standing like on each side of their ice, like both teams just barking at each other. I loved it. Yeah, it made me feel really good. Like that was what this sport is supposed to be tonight.
I know.
Like
I was just gonna say, I miss that stuff so much because we watch the Leafs every night, and they just play such a quiet, for lack of a better term, a little soft brand of hockey.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any question.
Not a ton of physicality, and then they get into these games where they know they have to bring it, and they have it. They obviously have it in them to play like this. Like you think about how nasty the games are against the Jets. Every time they play the Jets, it's like, oh my God, the Leafs are this physical, nasty team. Like, why can't they do this every night? And then they play a team they don't care about and they sleepwalk their way through it and they beat them, but it's like they don't throw one hit the whole night. I miss this kind of hockey with fights and hits and scrums after the whistle and everything. It's just, that's what I grew up with. And I was so excited about that fight. Like, I hate to admit to you how excited I was about that fight. Allie was like, I was like, I was jumping up and down my living room. I loved it. So that part of it was awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, it's a weird feeling, this game, because on one side of the coin, I say Toronto played well. They played up to their opponent. They outplayed them for stretches. They weren't fully healthy with TJ Brody. Like, that's the most meaningful player in the game that was missing it on either side.
No Pontus either.
Yeah, no Pontus, right? It's true. Like,
who's meaningful to the bottom six. He really is.
Yeah, he has been. He has been meaningful to the bottom six. That they were like able to match the intensity, that they were willing to engage in it, that their stars played like quite well in the game. Special teams were good. Like, there was a lot. Matt Murray made some big saves, even though, like, like the third one can
we not have the 5-hole goals now?
I know, but that's definitely it. I was gonna say that, like, all these decent things happen in the game, but I like I said, I just can't come away from it with a little bit of like, they got a little bit better from everything. They were a little more physical, a little deeper. Like, Toronto played a really damn good game and Boston won.
Yeah. And it's like, you could just picture them going to 7 games and playing a seventh game in that very building and it going very similarly to tonight. Right. Like, I can just, I have lots to look back on to be able to envision it, but I can envision it again with how that's an intimidating team, man. It really is. Like, I hate to admit it, but it's just, like you said, everyone on their team from the top down just pokes at you, hits you, cross checks you, slashes you. And you said to Tex, it would be such an enjoyable team to cheer for. There's just no debating it. There's just, the way they play hockey is an incredibly pleasing brand of hockey. So I'm really,
since they also have Pasternak, who is just like breathtakingly skilled and good. Like,
I didn't notice him much tonight other than him scoring a goal. But I didn't think he had because he literally always scores against Leafs. He scores every time they play. But I didn't think he was as noticeable tonight as he has been in other games against the Leafs. Like, he had the goal obviously on the 2-on-1, but I didn't think he dominated like he has in other nights.
No, I thought Marchand was the best Bruin tonight. But Pasta did have a moment near the end of the game where he almost had a wraparound, like right at the end of the game, where it was just like, holy crap, like just the quickness in which that all unfolded. I went, oh, right. That's kind of like Matthews in the zone with his goal, where you go, there's just some of those guys that have that nose for the net and the ability to pair those things together. And it's just like, danger just happens, like everything's fine. And then it's like, Heiler, danger. And it's just too late. He's one of those guys.
That whole line is horrifying. When those 3 guys are on the ice together, it's just, you really expect it to go in the net. Like, even the goal they scored, where it was just made it look so incredibly easy, where Marchand just fires a beautiful tape-to-tape pass to Bergeron, who just taps it by for the Bruins' first goal. Hey, 2 things before we go.
Yeah, I have one thing too.
He threw his stick.
I don't think he did.
Oh my God. Okay. So He didn't mean to throw his stick.
Yeah.
Guys don't mean to high stick guys in the face and trip them. He didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. Marner's about to shoot the puck there's a stick flying at his face. That was an insane non-call, and it goes down the other way, and it goes to the net. Listen, I'm not Mr. Blame the Officials guy. You know that. We really don't talk about officials very often on this show.
No, but that was a bad miss.
And Bruins have always got a friendly whistle in that building. Well, that's all I'll say.
Especially since it was the Taylor Hall dive and then that. They were back to back. So I was pretty frustrated. I'll say this. In the moment I yelled. I was like, he threw his stick.
Yes.
And to me, that is a play where if you're an official, it's like, how do you not give the benefit of the doubt that the goalie threw the stick? Like his stick's out of his hand and it was a dangerous chance.
It's a flashpoint play. The puck is on his stick in the slot.
That's what I'm saying. But, and I'm saying this in the most loving way possible because I love the man to death. Kelly Rudy is the biggest goaltender apologist on the planet.
Oh my God. He didn't. I love Kelly too so much. He's been part of my life forever. But I mean, he's like, he didn't mean to. I'm like, no, he threw the stick.
I know. But when they kind of were walking it through, it did kind of look like a little bit more of a slip.
So what?
I'm not saying I'm on your side. I'm just saying you asked me if he threw it, and I said I thought you were asking me did he do it intentionally or not?
Oh,
I think it should have been a penalty.
Yes,
but I didn't think that it was like a dirty kind of cheap play that he was like. Kelly's warm heart, his intentions, they got to me. I want to see the world the way that Kelly Rudy sees the world. Okay, you know how good that would be for a day. You know how nice that would be. So I'm on it. This is a guy who
I follow Kelly on Instagram. He's some nice dinners involved in there too. Oh boy,
Kelly's a couple things. Big, nice dinner guy, big heart and soul guy, great for mental health, warrior. But also, the funniest moment in the history of television was when Kelly got worked up about the trade deadline, and it was like that guys getting traded away, having to leave their towns and families, how hard it was for them. I was like, yeah, for sure it is, but that's got to be out of all the jobs, that are tough on planet Earth, leaving to go play professional hockey for millions of dollars in a different city. Probably not the worst of them. Do you think Bergeron actually retires after this year? I'm just watching him play. I'm like, please, you were going to retire from hockey?
No, please, God, quit. Just quit. You've done enough, old man. Retire. You're too old.
He's so good.
No, he's not that good. Just retire.
He's so good. What are we talking? I'm just saying, if this Bruins team is this good, there's no.
Yeah, if they win the cup, he retires.
Yeah, I guess that's the scenario. All I could think of was what part of this roster is taking a big step back next year? Do you know what's the craziest part about going to the deadline? I don't want to tell Leaf fans this, but Bruins have the most cap space out of Toronto and Tampa, by a significant margin.
Because they pay their top two centers $10 a year.
Yeah, I know. Well, guess what? Those guys agreed to play there. That's the Boston way. They had the championship buy-in. I don't know what to tell you.
But they also made $100 million each in their careers.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that they did have the thing where they had the right order in terms of when guys got paid, right? That's been one of the criticisms of Toronto was it went backwards and Boston.
Let's not get into this.
Yeah, whatever. What was your other thing? I'm just saying that they have more wiggle room at the deadline than any other team, and they've got all their picks except for their second, I think.
Yeah, listen, I know, terrifying. I took the bait hard on Twitter. Did you see my video about the ref? I was so pissed off. I did a video of me I'm probably gonna delete it. I was so mad. But the penalty call on Marner in the third period, where he strips the puck, and that they're about to go in on a 3-on-1 after the way that game was officiated. And listen, I prefer it to be.
He toe picked and fell. It was a bad call.
But I prefer it to be less penalties called. I really do. I would rather it be a physical game where guys are chopping, whatever. I don't need you to be calling, I don't need it to look like the first round against Tampa last year where every stick infraction was 2 minutes and there was 8 power plays a game. I don't want that.
I agree. I know what you're saying.
But at that point in that game, what was there, 10 minutes left? And you called that? It's come on, wake up a little bit.
No, I told you, I think that the refs are bad tonight. I thought that they had 3 major impact plays on the game.
But they're bad every night. There's no point in talking about it every night. But that was just a flashpoint situation in the game that pissed me off. And I did a video that I'm probably going to delete.
No, but the bigger one was probably the stick being thrown.
Yes.
A goal gets scored right after. And Marner I'm not going to say, I'll say he probably finishes that goal. It's not a guarantee, but.
No, but it's a high danger chance.
Yeah, it's a high danger chance for a guy who finishes a lot of those.
Yeah, so he had support with, the best, one of the best goal scorers on earth coming down the slot. So anyways,
I think it matters. Anyway, if I'm going to kind of like bullet point today's game, I would just say like, this is another game where like Matt Murray was good, but he let in the one extra one that you kind of want back, and their guy didn't, like in terms of a series.
100%. And Allmark was fantastic tonight.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
The blue line, again, they were a guy short in terms of they didn't have Brody tonight, and I'd be curious how much of a game he would have. But Riley just can't carry a blue line partner, which scares me for a $7 million player. And I don't know how they're going to end up figuring that piece of it out, because like they have a lot of guys that you like right now, but it still feels like a place they can upgrade. And then, like Toronto is, I think, still like they've played in enough big games now as a group where they can hit that intensity level. No problem. They can match it. They don't look overwhelmed. They look like they belong there, but they still don't look like a team that can match the physicality. And it's still going to be a concern over a series where it's like, 6-7 games deep. Like, how are you going to hold up? But then again, and then ultimately though, like their top guys all really showed up for this game, and I was really impressed by that. And they all had like kind of meaningful moments in it. So I don't know. Like I said, it's a weird game to watch where I feel good, but also like I feel encouraged by the Leafs. I feel like they can improve, but then I also just looked at what Boston was, and I was like, damn, that's a really hard team. That's a really like. There have been years where Toronto hasn't had the record as them in the standings, and they've played, and Toronto's played them in the regular season. Even earlier this year when they played, like Toronto was the better team throughout the game. Boston wasn't really up for it. Boston was up for it tonight, and it was just like, damn, none of this is fraudulent what they're doing this year, eh? Like you kind of hope that there's a little bit of, oh, well, they get exposed in this, and they just didn't have that tonight. And that was tough to see.
Yeah,
anything
completely
else
agree with it. No, I'm good. More meaningful hockey, please.
Yeah.
Tuesday against the Cats. Meow. Is that going to be meaningful for you? Not bad.
Well,
Division
rival.
rival.
The Cats are kind of fighting for their lives, right?
Yeah.
Is it in Toronto?
Yeah, in Toronto.
Well, that's good, because it'll matter, because guess what? All those Florida players are like, oh, finally someone will watch split hockey. This is sick.
And then Jets Thursday, which will be good. That's
that's
always and they're playing well, and then the Habs on Saturday night. So it's going to be a good stretch of games here this week.
Habs will somehow end up playing them tough, and Cole Caulfield will score.
Yes, lock.
Yeah, that's like those are. Yeah, you're right. This is a good little stretch, and then Islanders on the Monday after, which is like gonna be another tough opponent, and then a Rangers game. Nice little, good little stretch to get us out of January here. And then Battle of Ontario, who knows where that's at? Caps, and then Bruins again. And then I'm off for these two games.
Double CBJ.
Jackets, double CBJ on a Friday and a Saturday. Whoever put that on the schedule, like, hey, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna cuss. Like whoever put Columbus Blue Jackets Friday, Saturday night. Yeah, what I'm trying to say. Anyway, it's Leafs Talk. Hey, we got some, again, we always appreciate the reviews on iTunes and Spotify. It really helps us out. If you see the content on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, share it. If you just want to say that you like it to a friend, do that. Leave a thumbs up on YouTube. However it is that you want to kind of like chip in, if you like the free content, we really appreciate it. JD Bunkis, Sam McKee. You can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Bunkis, at Sam A. McKee. We will catch you for that game Tuesday night. Let's do it.
Yeah.
The Cats. See you then.